everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. That's the card game. I'm making sure that it doesn't sound like Thain, the card game, the Thain. I don't know. Anyways, I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm your host, Ted Bannock. And I love to
You love the S word?
I love the S word. Thank you. I was digging. I didn't have one ready, and usually I come up with one right off the top of my head. But you saved me, Dave. Thank you. I love two things. I love the S word, and I don't love that Grant's not here.
Yeah. We'll see him next week.
Do love our patrons.
Yes.
That's what I got.
We have a lot of dedicated fans of the show. If you want to become a fan of the show, make eligible for getting swag. We do give out swag yearly. All you have to do is join us down here at this link, patreon.com/cardtalk2018, and you can join at any level. We send swag to all our patrons in October, and thank you for all the international patrons being so patient for the swag this year, because there was a misprint, so I've been processing and getting that settled out for everybody so that they can get the right swag printing. Nonetheless, thank you to our current patrons who help keep the lights on here. We have all sorts of stuff that we like to do that help keep the lights on here. So we'd like to thank Thardir, Stephen, Mark, Jason, Ryan, Manuel, Grant, Katie, Rachel, Tony, Valentin, Eric, Jern's father, Moritz, Anders, Shane, Micah, Chris, Reagan, Rob, Brandon, Scott, Joe, Peter, Niall, Carl, Vardane, James, Joshua, Matt, Russ, Justin, Jason, Bob, Daniel, Mike, Bob, David, Sean, Lou, Phil, Joseph, and Dominic. So thank you guys for helping keep the lights on. And if you are interested in seeing another opinion about cards that we talk about out here on the pod, you can go over to the blog. The website is right here. It's cardtalk2018.com, and there you'll see Matt giving his opinion. And most of the time it's Matt. We do have guest writers coming on the show. So if you are interested in seeing what Matt has to say, or what guest writers have to say, opinions about cards, you can go ahead and check out the blog over there. And just as a side note, we do keep Matt separate from what we say on the blog, or from what we say on the pod. That way you are likely to hear a separate voice, a separate opinion from what we have. So we do that on purpose to help vary all the opinions that we get. And so far, we've gotten a couple of shows where Matt thinks differently about a card that we've done on the pod. So it definitely is good to get different perspectives. And that's what we are trying to do here about each card that we review. So
yeah, we just want to give everyone a chance to think about the card in a different way that maybe they hadn't thought about before. And I will review a card that I haven't played sometimes, and putting a card on the table completely changes opinions of cards. Cards you thought were terrible can become really good, and vice versa. And so we just want to share some of those ideas with you, so maybe it'll prompt you to play it and learn something new about the card, or something you didn't think of before. It's kind of our goal.
Yeah, and that was actually the original goal, even before Ted joined the podcast, was to just talk about cards and get you thinking about deck ideas and card ideas and combination ideas. And time again, I have people reach out to me just saying, you said something and it inspired me to build a deck. And that's really whether you agree with Ted and I, and Grant and I, or Matt over at the blog, it's just about inspiring you to do things that you may not have thought about with cards in the game. And in
fact, that's how I got involved in the show, is I didn't agree with them and I wrote in about it.
Which
and the rest is history.
Which brings up a point that we need to do. We were going to take a listener and promote a listener to becoming a host of the show. So, yeah, no, that's not actually what we're going to do, but because we're getting rid of a host, Ted, just so you know.
Oh, we are?
Yeah. Oh, it's awkward. But much like we promoted you from listener to host, what's the card that we're going to do today, Ted?
Today is a card of promotion, so thank you. Good segue there. Today's card is Sword-thain from the Dread Realm. Sword-thain is a neutral, unique 4-cost attachment. It is a title keyword. It says attached to a unique ally belonging to any sphere of influence. Attached character loses the ally card type and gains the hero card type.
Whew.
Interesting. This card brings a change to your dynamic in a way by giving you an extra hero. So I think there's some interactions there, Dave. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so this is an interesting card because the extra hero is not to be underappreciated, but it seems like on the surface, this card was made less popular by the Messenger of the King contract.
Which is significantly newer.
And so you take any ally unique that belongs to any... So you can't take Gandalf, you can't take Treebeard, but you can take an ally that belongs to... A unique ally that belongs to any sphere, and you can make it a hero from the very beginning. But the difference here is that becomes the Messenger of the King. That becomes your third hero. Here you get a fourth hero, or if you're running Bond of Friendship, you get a fifth hero,
or if you're running
right, or if you're doing the sagas, you get a sixth hero. Like, I mean, but the point is that you're getting MOTK has changed the use case of Sword-thain. But having that extra hero, regardless of what format you're running in, can't be overstated because, like, of course, I'll talk about Hobbits just a little bit to exemplify my point. But if I'm running a Bond of Friendship Hobbit deck, not Saga, just for simplicity here, Tactics Mary has +4 attack, and that's great. He's 4 attack. If he's Thornguild Spirit Mary, then that's 5 attack. But if I were to take one of my allies, unique allies in that deck at Hobbit, maybe I take, Odo Proudfoot and make Odo an extra spirit hero. Now, I get an extra attack along with having the extra resource generation that comes with having the fifth hero in the deck. So I think that there is still a significant chunk of the card pool or the card deck ideas that hasn't been eliminated because of MOTK from Sword-thain.
Yeah, I think we'll briefly go through all the contracts and how the contracts definitely changed this card for sure. Yeah. But as you're pointing out, it's not completely it's not irrelevant at all. It still has a lot of uses.
It's not Brock Iron Fist, because you're getting an extra resource right? Like MOTK doesn't change your resource generation. This does.
Yes,
right.
It does.
And so that's the one of the beauties of it. On top of, I know that this is going to sound weird, but this is from the very beginning when this card was introduced. When you sneak attack an ally into play, you can sneak attack that ally into play for 1 in the planning phase and then Sword-thain it. And then the way that sneak attack is worded, it says if that ally is in play at the end of the phase, bring it back into your hand. And so because it's now Sword-thained, it is now a hero and it's not that ally. So now you can play a 4 or 5 cost, sneak attack a 4 or 5 cost ally into play, make it a hero, and then do that. And that's still a legitimate move. I mean, it requires a lot of resources, but if requires less resources than if you were to hardcast that ally.
Right, but a different card in your hand.
Yeah, and it's a 3-card combo, right? Because you need the sneak attack, you need the Sword-thain.
So,
but anyways,
right.
but the point is that I think that Sword-thain is still. I still have a deck that I use Sword-thain. It's that Hobbit version of the deck, just to have more Hobbit heroes, because Hobbit heroes are better than Hobbit allies. So I don't
know. Yeah, having an extra hero in your lineup benefits, I think, Hobbits the most, because you have a couple abilities. Tactics Mary, you already mentioned.
Pippin.
And Lord Pippin, they directly benefit from the number of Hobbit heroes you have.
Right.
So, it's definitely fun to increase those, and they have an impact in the game. But it is really interesting the way contracts have changed the hero lineup, because Sword-thain let you have 4 heroes, right? You start with 3, add a 4th to Sword-thain. But now with Bond of Friendship, you start with 4 heroes already.
Right.
But now you can have a 5th hero.
Right. That never contribute anything to your original threat cost, right? Like in Bond of Friendship, you have to add up all 4 heroes' threat cost, right?
Right.
So
right.
I don't know.
Yeah. And so basically with the contracts, I think two hero decks are pretty much dead, because Grey Wanderer, the benefits of being a Grey Wanderer versus just having 2 heroes in a normal deck, I think is much stronger. But now with Grey Wanderer, you could have your Grey Wanderer hero now a second hero with Sword-thain.
Right.
Right?
Which is another option to go with, like Outlands, right? You can Sword-thain Forlong and make, 2 heroes come out that way.
I wonder, yeah, so there's a couple of tricks. Okay, so Grey Wanderer says you pick your starting hero. So if you Sword-thain a second hero with Grey Wanderer, you cannot use the contract to target that Sword-thain hero.
Right.
Grey Wanderer only targets your
original
hero,
your first hero,
your original starting hero. Yeah. But yeah, Hobbits are definitely the strongest for Sword-thain. I think this card is most popular with the hero Caldara in Spirit, because she has an ability that directly affects. It's based upon how many Spirit heroes you have.
Right.
So her ability is you discard Caldara, put 1 Spirit ally from your discard pile into play for each other hero you control with a printed Spirit resource icon. So if you Sword-thain a Spirit ally that has a
Spirit
printed
Sam Gamgee or something, right?
Right. There's plenty of targets.
Right. In that case, you're just trying to get another Spirit hero out there.
Right, which kind of makes up for her being killed. And then you also get another ally to play for free.
Right.
So those are probably the most common use cases we see. But I've never actually tried. I think this does fit well in a Bond of Friendship, because Bond of Friendship, you actually have the extra. This is an expensive card at 4,
right?
And you have the extra resource. Like first turn, you could play Aorith if you want to, and then Sword-thain her into a hero.
Right.
Because she's a 0 cost.
And then she's
unique
generating
ally.
her own resources to trigger her own ability, right?
Right. Like that. Exactly. Yeah. Then you just have healing for free every turn.
Right.
So there's some fun things you can do with it. I'm trying to think of some other archetype that benefits. We're having multiple heroes besides Hobbits and Caldara really benefits you.
I don't think you have very many other options there that make sense. Because I think a lot of times what people wanted was consistency in getting that ally into a hero, and that's what MOTK, Messenger of the King, did. Is it really gave you consistency. So when Chad from Cardboard of the Rings talks about his Ring Around the Rosie deck, he doesn't care who is. He just needs Rosie as a hero, and to have Rosie to begin the game as a hero is way better than trying to find Rosie and then trying to find Sword-thain and then, going from there. And then, it not only does it, start the game, but it also frees up deck slots, right? Because you don't have to worry about slotting 3 Rosies. You don't have to worry about slotting 3 Sword-thains. So, like if you need a hero to from the beginning, if you need an ally that has a hero ability, then this isn't the card to run. But like Forlong, I think that Forlong would make a great second Outlands hero, without Messenger of the King, because you can run a 3 or a 3 leadership heroes in a Outlands deck and then just have Sword-thain and Sword-thain Forlong. Like it just makes sense to do. So there could be some things where you'd want to, if you need some Sentinel on the board, if you're playing multiplayer and having a Sentinel hero as opposed to a Sentinel ally can help. Because again, and I feel like I've said this a lot in this bank of recordings, but you can do things to heroes a lot easier than you can do them to allies. So you can give them attachments that help them out a little bit easier when they're heroes. So that's
even
really
more. There's more events that target. Ready your hero. Give your hero an extra resource. There's way more events that interact with heroes than with allies.
Right.
I would say generally.
And so it can be fun, Bond of Friendship to make a 5th hero in that deck, especially if it's hobbits. I've done it. It's a ton of fun. I don't know how I don't know how much more effective it is. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, because usually Bond of Friendship hobbits is pretty effective anyways, because your threat is starting at 3 hero threat when you have 4 heroes out there, and there's just all sorts of crazy things that you can do. But anyways, I don't know. And so like when you think about some of the other archetypes that are out there, I think that could you run it in, I guess, the past series of shows, like in the Gondor trap deck, you can start with your 3 allies, your 3 heroes, and then you can make a 4th one, out of some of those things. But do you want to spend 4? That the 4 thing is really what you want to,
right? So I make this argument when people play Ally Radagast. So Ally Radagast generates a resource each turn to spend for creatures, and he can heal them, but he costs 5. And so he actually, if you spend 5 resources on a Radagast, he takes 5 turns to pay you back. Now he is doing he's questing or attacking or whatever. And this card's kind of the same way. Like, yes, you get an extra resource each turn, but you just spent 4 resources to do that. So it takes you 4. You don't get a return on your investment until 5 turns later.
Right.
So, but there are reasons, as you mentioned, to make an ally hero. There's a couple other heroes that give bonuses specific to heroes. Hero Tactics Theoden comes to mind, where he boosts a tactics hero.
Right.
And so he would get the willpower bonus. Same thing with Elfhelm. Elfhelm boosts mounted heroes.
Right.
And so if they're you can do a couple more things with it that way, but again, you really got to make sure it's worth it to spend that cash.
And I think that there is things that are worth it, and I think that MOTK took a lot of those worth it things out of the equation, but made this card still have a place in the card pool. So I think we should I think we should look at the art on this guy.
Yeah, let's take a look. Let's see if I can bring it up without disconnecting from the call.
I will say that when I look at the art of this, the one thing that I feel like it's a little cartoony for the game.
I agree.
Like this game prides itself on having, real photorealistic art, and I feel like, this is when, Pippin swore allegiance to the Denethor, right? Isn't that what it is? Pippin or Merry? I always get the two screwed up. Who was the Pippin? Right? Pippin was the Sword-thain of Gondor, right? And so this is
yes,
that
even
him
the quote on the
swearing fealty.
card. Yeah, there's a quote on the card from Mary, but it really looks like it's Pippin and Denethor in the picture here.
Oh, so wait. So, is this then Mary becoming the Sword-thain of Rohan? Is that what it is?
It could be.
That's
That's what the
okay.
flavor text is
But
suggesting.
it's interesting because I always imagine that, I don't know. This is me missing that one part of the turn. Okay, so this is Mary becoming the Sword-thain of Rohan under Theoden. Anyways, but it just seems like the face on that character that's kneeling down just is cartoony. I'm not saying that it's not high quality, but it just seems kind of disconnected from the rest of the art in the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. It's still good quality, but I think it doesn't fit with necessarily all the other pieces.
Yeah. Yep. And so, I don't know, should we ring this guy?
Yeah, let's give it a ring. Bring, bring.
Hello, Sword-thain.
Hello. Is this Sword-thain?
This is Sword-thain.
This is Sword-thain. Hey, listen, I was hoping, could you come over and make my ally a hero? Maybe later tonight?
I will, but right now I have to introduce this highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we ring a card on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, or one of the best cards in the game, and the 10 is the cards that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it was made, or not a very good card. So, Ted, I think I forced you to go first last time, so I will force you to go first again this time. No, I'm just kidding. I'll go first.
Okay.
Sword-thain.
Take it away, Dave.
Yeah. So, I think that Sword-thain is still a good and fun card, but I think it lost its utility. Ted, you're famous for saying, the weakness of any card is you have to draw it. And so what MOTK did was give the ally to hero thing consistency. And so for those decks, Sword-thain is out. But I still think that it's fun, and I think that there are still some use cases, and you can make some pretty strong use cases for them. But I think it's less than it was. So I think that I'm just gonna have to say, only because MOTK is out, I think I have to give this guy like a 6. Like he just doesn't make it in a ton of decks, but still reminiscing about all the Sword-thained allies I've had in my life, and Sword-thained in my I used to Sword-thain Legolas in my Sylvan deck. Just a lot of fun stuff.
Yep.
And then you have tactics resources coming out. I don't know, but I don't do that anymore because there's no need to with other cards that have been released. So what do you think?
Well, and again, there's reasons to do that, right? Like you make ally Legolas a hero. Now we can have better attachments, right? So like there is some cause there. It's definitely really strong in the Caldara deck, because I've seen those decks just spit out allies sometimes very quick, like turn 2 sometimes. They're like, oh, I just put on 2 Northern Trackers and Elfhelm on it. Like I just put out 12 resources of allies onto the board very easily. So, but it's strong in those archetypes, but less versatile. And I tend to give the more versatile cards a higher rating. So I'm going to give this card probably a 7.
Oh.
And not because
7's bad, just so you know. It's on the bad side of it.
It's it goes into, because it's not just that it goes into an archetype. You really got to build your deck, and as you mentioned, its weakness is that it's not reliable. So even in Caldara decks, you have to wait for Sword-thain to appear, and you could have all 3 copies just buried at the bottom of your deck. So it really its biggest weakness is that you can't rely on drawing this card, and that's its biggest problem. So that's what moves it down for me, but it can have a big impact. When you're boosting Mary's attack by 1 and getting that, when Mary's up to 5 attack and Pippin's saying all enemies are +5 engagement, that's a pretty big impact. Like, that really is good.
Yeah.
But very, very kind of use casey to build to make those decks kind of at a higher level. And even then it could be kind of a win more situation where you're already doing good to play this.
If you can afford to spend 4, you're already probably ahead of the game. Literally ahead in the game.
Yeah, because you don't get any immediate impact. You're like, great, he's a hero. Unless you're going to put an unexpected courage on that ally and then or that hero now and then have him do multiple things. So, but it's still very fun to play and can be strong in certain decks. So, give it a whirl. Check out the blog. See what Matt has to say. I'm sure he'll list out maybe a couple other. We didn't go through all the targets for this because we've kind of mentioned them as we do episodes on the allies themselves, but I'm sure Matt will go through hopefully and.
He has a tendency to be a little more specific about stuff. He even gives deck examples where the card shines in it. So he does a lot of good stuff over there at the blog. CardTalk2018.com. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. That was Sword-thain. And so we will catch you again next week as we talk about more cards in the game. Have a great day, everybody.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube. And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.